Are you trying to build explosive reactive strength? Watch this.
Our next caller is Daniel from Texas.
Daniel, what's happening? How can we help you?
Hey guys, really excited to talk to you this morning. I guess I'll give you a little background so my question makes sense. I'm almost 40. I've been lifting for about 4 years. Really just sorted through lifting myself, had no formal training, tried to sort through the industry information, which was tough at best. And when COVID hit, stopped actually lifting and started picking basketball up. I have an athletic background. So a bunch of us were playing through that. And I started straining my calf, both of them actually pretty bad. So I took a break as everything opened back up and started another weight training program. Someone pointed me to you guys. After listening to you for about a month, I bought your programs and started Anabolic, and actually saw really, really good success through it. I tried to play basketball halfway through and pulled my calf again. So I stopped altogether, but I ran the full program. I saw great success. I went from 17% body fat down to 9, added about 8 pounds of muscle.
Wow. That's great.
So really, really thankful for you guys. And I'm a walking billboard for you guys around here. I've got a lot of friends and family that have started your programs. But I started Performance, and I thought I addressed some of my mobility issues I did in my shoulder and in my back, used Prime for that, and it fixed it. So I thought I was doing some things for my calf, but I went to play again 2 weeks into Performance, and I strained it again. So I sent in this question because I heard Adam say, if he was going to play basketball, he would design something so he wouldn't get hurt. And I really wanted to see what you guys would say. If there's anything I can do, or if as I'm approaching 40, I just got to hang up my basketball shoes.
Adam just rubs Ben Gale over his calves now.
Stupid. That's what my dad did forever, dude. Yeah. No, yeah. This one's so close to home for me, right? So, yeah. And honestly, okay, so Performance is good for like general performance, and it's good for working on mobility, the things that you've addressed. But when you start dealing with like calves or like Achilles stuff, that I tore my Achilles playing basketball for this exact reason, because there's a difference between working on your ankle mobility and then actually working on like explosive drills and strength with your ankles, which Performance isn't very specific to that. So although I would run a program like Performance, I would definitely have some modifications for basketball stuff. And you know who's got really good stuff, and why is his Instagram going to slip me right now? Corey Schlesinger's Instagram name, Justin, do you know what it is? Uh-oh. So if you, I don't know, do you follow Corey? Have you heard me shout him out?
Strength, I think.
Yeah, like Strength. I'll have, so you got it, don't you, Andrew? Okay, so I'll make sure that Andrew puts it in the show notes, or he'll pop it up. So when you watch this, you'll actually see it.
It is Schlesch Strength.
Yeah,
okay. CASCHLESS.
He's a good friend of ours, and he's the strength and conditioning coach for the Phoenix Suns. And he actually also tore his Achilles. And then he you'll have to go further back on his Instagram to see some of this, but he posted a lot of really good rehab stuff for ankle strength and Achilles, like reactive training. That stuff is what I would need, because I've had calf and Achilles issues with, and a lot of that I think has to do with the muscle that I had built. So like you, I went on this like muscle building kick, so when I played basketball, I weighed more like 180. Well, I walk around 230 now. Okay. And even when I'm in like lean shape, I'm 215, 220, which is way different than what my explosive basketball self is used to. That's the one drawback of actually packing on a bunch of muscle, is if you haven't trained athletically with all that muscle, then this is where you get these kind of issues with like strains in the calves, or in my case, tearing the Achilles. Is you've got all this power that you've built, but not the same type of power that translates into sports. So I make sure you check out his stuff. Also, another person, I know I'm plugging other people than ourselves, but to be honest, I don't think we have written anything that really addresses this. Is our good friend Paul Fabritz at PJF Performance, who has a bunch of training programs. I literally would take from those guys if I were to build a kind of a basketball training routine for myself to get myself back into shape.
Yeah, really, it amounts to that speed power. And there's just like brief elements of that, and I think it's phase 4 or phase 3 of performance, but really like plyometrics and getting your calves conditioned for that type of fast twitch response and that kind of demand and force generation there. That's what you need to start, scaling and being able to work on improving. And those are great examples that Adams was mentioning. They have like certain drills where they actually use assisted band, where you actually hold on to a band and you start, working on that time of keeping your feet on the ground and explosively, jumping and bounding up. So there's lots of like sport specific type technique for this type of training that you really need to dive into that part of it. Meanwhile, getting that type of real foot strength from your barbell training as well.
Yeah, I mean, the big rule of thumb here, Daniel, is that performance is quite specific in terms of how you train. That is where you'll get most of the performance. So if it's strength, although strength has a lot of carryover, most of the gains in strength will be to similar movements, similar speed, that kind of stuff, right? So if you're playing basketball, it's much more explosive, reactive, and you're not doing any of that in your training, you'll get some carryover from strength training and mobility, but not a whole lot. So you want to do things where you're practicing some maybe controlled jumping, lateral, bounding, jump rope can even help a little bit for short bouts. Basically, you want to practice the stuff that you'll be doing in basketball just to get your body acclimated and get the reactive strength, the stability to be where you want it, so that when you go play basketball, you don't experience what you've been experiencing.
Yeah, toe squats. I mean, using the sled for sprinting, things like that, where you can be a little more explosive on your forefoot. So, being able to strengthen your feet is going to be everything, which will then help translate up the kinetic chain and get your calves conditioned as well.
Definitely dive through all the guys' stuff that I just recommend. They got all kinds of really good stuff related to what we're talking about. I know at one point we've talked about getting more specific with like performance and addressing specific athletes. But I would take the base of performance and then I would add in some other drills that I would pluck from our two friends who I think have
start slow though.
Yeah.
What you don't want to do is do like a whole workout where you're simulating basketball, because you'll just strain your calf again. So I would do like a couple sets and slowly progress yourself, just like you would with any other,
or even just a couple specific exercises, just adding that into the routine, right? Just doing a couple of these exercises that Corey is doing on his Instagram, I think would be extremely valuable to you, and just building it up. But I mean, it's crazy how, and I know what it's like, I'm sure, because you have an athletic background. And I really didn't feel this till north of 35. Up into 35, I really felt like I could be cold, haven't played basketball in forever, grab a ball, just a couple weeks of playing ball, I would be adapted and ready to go. But man, after 35, and a little bit of that is, I think, just getting older and not doing a lot of these movements. I also think that it didn't help that I had built a ton of muscle since my early 30s. So all those things are kind of working against you and I as we age, and now it's necessary. Mm-hmm. Like if I'm gonna go play basketball, or else I'm doing exactly what you're feeling. I'm feeling strains in my calves. I'm potentially tearing my Achilles. I rolled level 3 sprains in both ankles. I mean, I'm of a disaster after 35 when it came to playing basketball, and it's because I neglected this shit.
Hey, Adam, was that second group PJAF Performance?
PJF. Paul Fabritz, he's like, in my opinion, he's one of the best, most elite NBA basketball coaches, and he puts out tremendous amount of free content that is incredible.
Awesome. That's great, guys. I really appreciate it. I love your programs. Love everything you're doing. Really, really helpful.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks, Daniel.
There you go. Yeah, you know what it is as you age? It's your body's ability to adapt in the positive slows down, but your body's ability to adapt in the negative speeds up.
Right.
So it's like, if you miss a bunch of workouts in your 20s, you lose some strength and some mobility and some stability, but not super fast. When you're 50, whoa, it goes away. So, I mean, I remember when I would train people over the age of 60 and they miss a month of working out, it was like they stopped working out for 6 months. Yeah. So you adapt in the negative so fast. And so if you don't play basketball for a year when you're 20, it's not that big of a deal. You don't play basketball for a year when you're 40, and it's like you got to really prep and get yourself back to that skill, because everything you train is, I mean, every movement is a skill that you practice. most of the gains you make in whatever skill are pretty skill specific. So even though you're working out in the gym all the time, if you stop doing these specific sports or athletic, endeavors, you got to get yourself back to them before you jump right in.
Yeah, I think that when you're younger, you don't realize what kind of demand like a sport like basketball puts on your body because you're so resilient. And as you age, it's ever more evident. Like strength is something you can keep and maintain relatively, proficiently, and also muscle. But like in terms of explosive strength, athleticism, you have to do so many extra movements and make sure that you're reinforcing your joints, and your ligaments, all these things before you just jump right back in. Because your body just really needs to get conditioned back in that type of explosive demand.
Well, I don't think that I realized what a difference the weight was going to make, because I was in this guy, right? I was 8-9%. I was jacked.
How much more weight were you carrying? How much more weight were you carrying?
Yeah, but my body, I'm carrying 20-30 more pounds.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So yeah, of course, hindsight looking back. But I think that when you're a fit person like this and you have an athletic background, I think your thought process is I'll just kind of take, and this was mine. I'll get back. And what I used to have the way I used to get back into basketball was who I played basketball with, right? So I knew at certain times of the day, average playing guys would play this time, right?
Well, here's all the old guys with the pot bellies.
Yeah. So and then if you wanted the ballers, Saturday morning at 8:00 in the morning, that's when all the collegiate guys come in, and so I'm
going to work my way there.
Yeah. So I would work my way. That was my way of kind of getting ready, but it didn't matter. Even though I was playing way easier, my body still, when it goes to go for a rebound or make a cut left or right, it remembers what I did my entire childhood to move like that. But now I'm moving 20 to 30 pounds more, and I haven't trained that new weight of mine explosively. And it would be my ankles, calves, and knees.
Yeah, well, you're also the decelerating part, right? Controlling that. So maybe you are stronger in certain movements, and maybe you're overdoing the force, but you can't, slow yourself down.
Well, if you gain 20 pounds of muscle through controlled strength training, most of that muscle is going to be good at controlled strength training. If you don't train it explosively, you just have a bunch of strong but not explosive body weight. Then you go to try to explode, and that muscle hasn't been training that way. So it just becomes a liability.
Well, and I don't think I realized how I could do it to myself. Of course you think as you get older, you're more prone to injury, but you still think of somebody injuring you or you doing something stupid. I blew my Achilles. I had just laid the ball up, made the bucket, and then the guys were going the opposite direction. I turned and took off to go back the other direction. And just the deceleration, like you're saying, Justin, down from the layup and the jump to the explosive going the opposite direction. And I literally thought that the guy behind me stepped on it felt like he stepped on my Achilles or intentionally hurt me. Yeah. And when I looked back, there was nobody there. I was all by myself. But that was the pop. But I was all alone. It was all alone, and I wasn't doing anything crazy. It was literally a layup coming down and then turning and then going back up the court the other direction.
Full throttle the opposite direction.
That's right.